strength training and strength training in general for all high school sports obviously is probably very different from what most people have experienced in their childhood or their teenage life as a high school player, simply because everything is accelerated. The NBA has had an impact on college basketball. College basketball has had an impact on high school basketball. And high school basketball has had an impact on youth basketball. Ask any veteran, seasoned college basketball player or coach, or high school basketball player or coach who was very successful at their time. They're going to tell you that kids today are doing things athletically that didn't even occur at their level at their time. Not to say that certain skill sets, there actually are skill sets that kids today are actually more deficient than, say, 40 years ago. But on the other side, athletically, from an athleticism point of view, there are kids doing things, players doing things that you couldn't imagine. And whereas 20 or 30 years ago, or even 10 to 15 years ago, the kid was an anomaly. A kid who had a basketball handling series at 5th grade would blow your mind away, whereas today it's oftentimes commonplace to pull up YouTube and see a 8-year-old phenomenon that probably has more basketball athleticism and specific skill just because of the pressure downward from sports. And I think that's true. I think that's true in football, and I think that's obviously true in baseball as well, and probably a number of other sports. And I think technology certainly has a lot to do with that. We focus on speed and agility together in sense that probably what student athletes are perceiving as God-given talent as far as agility. Is it quickness or is it speed? Well, really, in every sport, there's actually sport-specific movements. For a simple example, in my program, I've never taught kids to backpedal. That's a skill that I believe that if you're backpedaling in a basketball game, you're in big trouble, because I know people can run faster forward than you can backwards. And so that's not a skill we work on. Go to any football workout and watch the defensive backs. They're working on backpedaling, back shuffling, side shuffling, a majority of their workouts. And so when we talk about agility, we're going to work with our kids on agility situations that are in-game like. Balancing on one foot, catching a ball with one hand, saving a ball, and what kinds of movements are your body going to have to go through to be prepared to do that. Now, hopefully some of those things are once in a game, never in a game scenarios, but if you break down the game of basketball, you can find a lot of those scenarios where your body's doing things that you wouldn't traditionally train for in a weight room, and agility is where a lot of those things fall into. So for example, like I said, we're going to do a lot of single leg lifts, single leg Romanian deadlifts, a lot of balancing activities, a lot of two broad jump, or what people would consider just to be a high jump, to prepare for in-game like scenarios. We practice getting up from falling down, and how you can get up faster, because you're going to fall down. And you know, the old saying is failing to plan is planning to fail. And so we want to find every avenue that we can teach kids, hey, yes, you learned how to get up in recess in 1st grade when you got knocked down, but that's all fine and dandy for the kickball game. But when our defense has failed us, and maybe the other team's taking the ball down the court, we need to be able to get up and catch up as fast as we can. And that's an agility thing, and that's something that can be learned. Quickness, I don't know. I mean, quickness, sometimes that is probably an innate feature, but agility is something we can work on through being creative in the weight room and in the gym. Stamina is something that we want to train our basketball players to have basketball stamina. Although I'm impressed if you can run a 5K or a half marathon, that's a whole different kind of stamina than what we're looking for. And so players will often say, I'm going to start running to get ready for the season, and I ask them, what are you doing, and do you have a ball in your hand? I mean, yes, it is true that 1% of the time that you play basketball, the ball's in your hand. during a normal game. But on the other hand is, we have a variety of things that we can improve upon and a limited time to do them in. So if we can combine any two skills, oftentimes we want to condition with a ball in our hand or in a proper stance or position. And there is definitely a specific set of basketball conditioning that you need to do. And as far as stamina is concerned, I'm a huge believer in the fact that as soon as you're, and I've heard this since I was a player, is when your legs go, your mind goes. And when I say that to players today, I don't know that they really understand what I'm saying, but if we watch it on film, their shot form, their defensive stance in the first quarter versus the fourth, regardless of score, is often night and day, and that has to do with stamina. Are you going to be more tired in the fourth than the first? Absolutely. That's a natural progression of a basketball game or any sport that you're playing, but is there any way that we can prepare for those things? And so, as you see our practices later on in the season, you're very rarely going to see, line up on the line, guys, because very rarely do we run 80 feet at a time, stop, run 80 feet, do it again. Certainly those are techniques used by coaches and tried and true and have been very successful, but we try to make everything as basketball specific as we can so that our players see the purpose of what we're doing. And in a kind of a sneaky way, it kind of masks conditioning, which is not usually a favorite, but it does create stamina that way, and certainly an area where all coaches want to improve, and all coaches will tell you, probably through a famous quote, we're never going to lose a game because we're tired. And my thought on that is, who would? Everybody says that. That's nothing new. How you go about doing it and making it happen is a whole other different challenge for a coach. On the tip drill. When we talk about identity and self-respect, they obviously go very much hand in hand. And one of the things that's unfortunate about today's youth, sometimes across the board, is you find two types of kids. Kids that are overly confident in their ability that's unfounded. Kids, more often than what you might think, are very, very underconfident or lack of confidence in their ability. They don't respect themselves enough to put the time into. It's kind of the theme in our country a little bit right now is that if I don't have a natural talent, then this may be something that's not for me. And that's not the case. Basically, my advice is you need to do a little bit more exploring, and honest exploring. And when I say about exploring your talent, I'm talking about you need to play with people of all levels of skills and people outside of your town, and to get a good evaluation of where are people your age. Playing against your classmates in third grade physical education class, you might have an inflated view of where you're at. And so some people get very disgruntled early on. They say, wow, I wasn't even in the top 10 players. Well, you were 10 years old. You were 8 years old. And they live with those memories and they stick with them, just like they would in a positive way. And so what we have to do is we have to kind of identify kids at different levels. And to not be discouraged to say, hey, you're growing extremely fast and your body's going to be able to do things that you didn't think they could do, and I'm going to show you opportunities of how it works. And a lot of that comes through individual or small group workouts, because that allows me to work with them, create a few building blocks of basic skills that they probably have never been taught to do, and so they were set up to fail from the beginning as soon as interscholastic athletics happen, whether that be 7th or 8th grade, let's say, for example. Because that is, in a lot of cases, some people's first view at competitive sports, although I think you're a little bit behind the 8 ball at that point, if you are, but there's still an opportunity there. And so one of the things that is why the weight room is very important for us, because everybody has their own standard. You're not living up to anyone's standard. There's no magic weight or percentage that you need to be at. Whether you're achieving plus or minus. And so one of the things Coach Sims and I preach on is personal records, or what we call PR. And when someone PRs, we stop everything in the weight room and we scream, PR, so-and-so. And whether they like the attention or not, they know deep down that's the best I've ever done today. Today I broke my personal record, whatever it might be. And so yes, on the first day of our weight system, on a spring, summer, or a fall session, we say PR about 50 times in 1 hour because many people have never maxed out on a bench press or a power clean, particularly if they're younger. And so we make sure that, hey, congratulations, you should respect yourself for being here and making that attempt to do something that you've never done.